Last night, you may have seen or heard about the Frontline program that went into,
I've heard about it.
Yes, went into some detail about the immigration detention facilities. It focused on a number of them, but particularly on the Willacy detention facility in Texas.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about, Frontline always does a great job, but I learned a lot about the situation as I followed this program, that some 85 to 90% of those who were detained under civil charges, not criminal charges, but civil charges, do not have benefit of counsel, that the due process requirements are very limited on their behalf, and that many times they are in facilities that are privatized, private businesses that are doing them, and we do business with them. It has become a huge industry. I understand it's about $1.7 billion a year that your agency spends on these immigration detention facilities. There was an aspect of this program, though, that was particularly troubling. Maria Hinojosa, in part of that program, had a woman who was a victim at this Willacy facility. She had been raped, and her identity was hidden from the camera, and she told her story about how it was virtually impossible for her to even seek justice in this circumstance because she was totally at the mercy of the guards in this privatized facility. Now, I joined with Senator Sessions and some of my other colleagues in passing the Prison Rape Elimination Act of 2003, and I thank Senator Sessions for his leadership on this, to eliminate sexual abuse in custody in the United States. We wanted to create a zero-tolerance policy. The Frontline episode was not the first time we've heard troubling reports about sexual abuse suffered by those in immigration detention. The National Prison Rape Elimination Commission said in its report, accounts of abuse by staff and by detainees have been coming to light for more than 20 years. As a group, immigration detainees are especially vulnerable to sexual abuse and its effect while detained due to social, cultural, language isolation, poor understanding of U.S. culture and the subculture of U.S. prisons, and the often traumatic experiences they've endured in their culture of origin. The Commission issued proposed standards. The Department of Justice is now finalizing its national standards to prevent, detect, and respond to prison rape. April of this year, I wrote a letter to Attorney General Holder emphasizing the importance of strong standards. What is the Department of Homeland Security doing to ensure that immigration detainees are safe from sexual abuse, whether they're in ICE facilities or contract facilities?
When I took over as Secretary, Senator, we found that there were little or no standards being applied uniformly across all of the many detention facilities that we use in the ICE context. Some of them are public jails, like Weber County, as Senator Hatch referred to. Others are privatized with companies like CCA. We have to have beds, and in particular, given our priorities and how we are managing the system, we need beds that are near the southern border. We have, and as part of that process, I brought in someone to actually look at standards, and we redid our contracts with some of the private providers. We do have a process by which we are regularly auditing and overseeing what is happening there, but that is not to say that there aren't cases that are particularly horrific. We also have, Senator, really tried to emphasize the availability of visas for those who are victims of crime, particularly victims of sexual crime and domestic violence. And we're trying to get out into the field of the fact of the matter that that the Congress and the regulations do permit these visas. So we'll obviously review the documentary that was on last night and follow up appropriately.
Please
and we'll
do.
keep you posted about that.
I'm going to send you a letter, and I thank the committee for its patience here. I just want to make one last point. We spend annualized about $40,000 a year for each of these detainees. When you figure $120 a day is the number that I've been told, and I'm trying to discount that, thinking some are probably not that expensive.
That's probably a good average number.
Good average, $40,000 a year. It's not that they're charged with a crime. They're in for a civil offense. They have no benefit of counsel, 90% of them, and very few due process rights, limited command of the English language, and they are easily victimized. I think we have a responsibility to treat them humanely and fairly in this situation. So the letter, my follow-up letter to you will not only address this issue of standards to protect them from sexual assault and rape, but also to go into questions about those with mental disabilities who have been brought into this system. There was this awful, awful case in San Diego that was prosecuted or raised just a few years ago, where they had two individuals who suffered from serious mental illness who had been in the ICE system, lost in the system for 4 years. 4 years. What I've read and learned since the program last night in my study, there are totally inadequate medical facilities and staff for the people who are in these detention facilities, from psychologists and psychiatrists to nurses and dentists. I mean, we have really, if we're going to take the responsibility of incarcerating them, we have a responsibility to treat them humanely. And I want to work with you to make sure that happens.